At exactly 5:47 a.m., I stood in my kitchen, half awake, holding a mug of coffee, staring at the grainy footage from my security cam. And there she was again, barefoot, pink hoodie, bold as daylight, tiptoeing through my backyard like a thief in a candy store. Her name, Wendy, president of the local HOA, self-declared queen of community standards, and apparently a honey bandit. That morning marked the third time she walked right up to my little honey crate, swiped 2 sealed jars, and strutted back to her house without so much as a wave. My jaw clenched. My coffee shook. That honey wasn't just some condiment, it was mine. My bees. My backyard. My early mornings filled with stings and smoke and care. And Wendy, she was stealing it like it was part of her HOA perks package. When I moved into this semi-rural community 3 years ago, I'd been promised peace. I planted native wildflowers, installed solar rain barrels, and picked up backyard beekeeping as a hobby. It was relaxing, rewarding, and ironically made me feel more connected to nature than any HOA meeting ever had. The first season, I gave honey away freely to neighbors. That's how Wendy first got her taste. Back then, she was all smiles, those tight, fake kind of smiles that make you wonder if someone's complimenting your garden or judging your life. I didn't mind. Not until the jars started disappearing and anonymous notes started showing up. Notes like, "This tastes way better than store honey. Thanks." Signed with a glittery heart. I installed cameras. And bingo, there she was, in all her velour glory, helping herself every other day. I confronted her once, printed stills from the footage. She laughed and said, "You should be proud the community loves your honey. The bees don't belong to you anyway, they fly over everyone's yard." The next morning, she left an HOA pamphlet on my porch with the shared resources section highlighted. She actually argued that since my bees pollinate other gardens, the honey technically belongs to the neighborhood. I almost choked on my toast. But the final straw. Wendy hosted her HOA committee brunch and bragged loud enough for me to hear while trimming my hedges that her private supplier makes honey for her lemon scones. My honey. My scones. And she called me that weird bee guy who probably names each bug. The ladies laughed. I didn't. That night, I lay awake. Not with anger, but with strategy. I hatched a plan. A poetic, petty, perfectly legal plan. By morning, I had researched hive relocation and smoked my bees into a portable box disguised as a flower planter. Just after sunset, I wheeled it across our shared property line and placed it squarely on Wendy's porch right next to her yoga mat and cucumber water table. I even left 2 fresh jars of honey beside it with a handwritten tag, "Fresh Harvest. Enjoy." Then I waited. At 5:45 sharp, Wendy opened her door, still in her robe, yawning, reaching for the honey when the first bee buzzed past her ear. Then another. One landed gently on her ankle. What followed was Olympic-level flailing. she screamed, kicked over her decorative lanterns, and slammed the door so hard it rattled her shutters. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. Within hours, her porch became a no-fly zone. She stayed indoors, peeking out from behind the blinds. The bees. They loved her lavender planters. Her porch became their buffet. Irony at its sweetest. The next day, two HOA enforcers Mike and Donna came knocking. Matching polos. Serious expressions. They claimed Wendy filed a complaint that I had weaponized bees. I led them to my now empty hive base and showed them my official city beekeeping permit. When asked if I'd moved the hive, I smiled and said, maybe they relocated. Bees make their own choices. That would have been the end until my nephew uploaded the footage to TikTok. Title: When you steal honey, the hive strikes back. It went viral. The comments were hilarious. People started calling me the Justice Beekeeper. Orders for honey rolled in faster than I could bottle it. We slapped on custom labels: Porch Sting, Sweet Karma, Buzz of Justice. But Winnie wasn't done. She snuck into my yard in the middle of the day, dressed like an amateur astronaut hood, gloves, netting, and tried to kick over my backup hive. Bad idea. The bees weren't amused. She ran screaming into her azalea bush, tripped over a hose, and limped home looking like she'd just lost a battle with Mother Nature herself. I submitted the footage to the city. The police issued her a formal trespassing warning. Her sister, Sandra, stormed over, claiming Wendy was having a spiritual awakening and needed the bees gone for her healing journey. No one bought it. Then came the court summons. Wendy argued I'd psychologically tormented her with insects. The judge watched the footage without blinking and ruled in my favor. She was sentenced to 40 hours of community service. At the community garden, the same one where I now taught weekend beekeeping workshops. Guess who pulled weeds during my first class? A month later, things shifted. Wendy stopped hiding. I saw her one morning sitting quietly near the Hivino gloves. No net. Just watching. A week later, I found a small jar on my porch labeled Porch Batch 1. It wasn't mine. It was hers. Homemade. No note. Just the honey. Sometimes, the most unexpected stories come from the smallest stings. What started as petty revenge turned into something far bigger: a neighborhood buzzing with laughter, growth, and just enough sweetness to go around. Let me know in the comments, have you ever had a petty neighbor feud spiral out of control? What would you do if someone stole your honey every morning?